Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Spotlight Sessions, where we have conversations with disability changemakers. Today, I'm really honored to be chatting with Namel Norris, the co-founder of 4WheelCity, a disabled duo who are a rap group and really trying to change the way we view disability in the music industry, as well as having a lot of other missions. And Namel, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Glad to
Epic.
be here.
I'm glad to have you on the show. I always tell people about like the first conversation that we had and how wide ranging it was, and I'm just excited that we can try to recreate that conversation so people can walk away with kind of some actionable takeaways. So Namel, before we get into the questions, I know a lot about yourself. We've kind of collaborated in a few different ways, but tell us about yourself. Tell us about your upbringing. What's your story?
Okay. So let me start out by saying I'm a hip hop artist, rapper, just a disability advocate. I wasn't born originally with a disability. I acquired my disability when I was 17 years old through senseless gun violence. I was shot in my lower neck. My family member, my cousin, was playing around with a gun, which led to him mistakenly shooting me, and then left me paralyzed. And after I became paralyzed, is when I got into this space of disability advocacy work with my music, with my partner Rick Fire, who's also has a disability, and acquired his as a teenager too, due to gun violence. And I pretty much before that happened to me, I was a young kid running the streets of the Bronx, trying to play basketball, do music, and at the same time be like involved in like the street things going on too, some negativity, and that kind of got me, and like me and my cousin, in that space of guns and stuff. And that's I bring that up only because we advocate for gun violence too. So I like to understand like why that's a passion of mine, because I understand both sides of it. But I grew up loving music. After I became disabled, I started to realize that there was a lot of things that I didn't see before that people who have a disability, such as being in a wheelchair, had to deal with. And I started to be like really affected by it, from places not being wheelchair accessible to the way people was treating me. I didn't like what I was going through wasn't serious, or they make jokes and stuff. And I just went through a lot of different things that made me feel like angry at times, and I wanted to say something. So I started to put it in my music, different topics about things, and that led to me. Okay, so let me go back a little bit too. When I first came home from the hospital, I didn't know anybody in a wheelchair. And my mother, God bless her soul, she seen Rick outside one day, and she told Rick about me, and she gave Rick gave her his number, and he was already in a wheelchair. I called him, yo, what's going on? And he's come to my house, which he actually lived in the very next building from me, and we both lived on the 14th floor. And so it was like a perfect match of us just meeting each other right there in the same neighborhood. But when I went to his house, he was making beats. He just was getting into producing himself and trying to find his craft while he was in the chair. So when that happened, he gave me a beat. I started, and that started giving me the avenue to express myself at the time. Like Rick was giving me beats, and I was trying to get back into rapping like I was before my injury. But as I was going through a lot of things that was happening and discovering this new world of having a disability, that's where I started to put these ideas into my music, and that's how we began to like speak about a lot of things. And we wanted to just make something. We wanted to make something to bring awareness and to help people who didn't have access to things or had the information as well. So that's how the whole concept of 4WheelCity came up. It was like an idea to inspire, educate, advocate, and entertain. That's what the 4 stand for. And so we've been trying to just, through music, help people, inspire people, and show the world like just because somebody has a disability, their life is not over. And if somebody has a disability, like show them that they still can accomplish their dreams. Like I went back to school, and when after I got in a wheelchair, I went back to high school. I graduated, junior college, been just being all over the city doing things. I work, and so I'm a product me and Rick too. Rick is a dad, you know, so we're products of the same things. We're trying to like put out into the world and inspire people, just and use ourselves as examples of like what people can do despite their disabilities. So we got to give people a chance and opportunity and stuff like that.
Wow, and I love your story, especially because it's very a lot of people can connect with your story, inspiring to educate, to also entertain. So I'm very interested in kind of your musical background. Who were your musical influences before the gunshot, and who are your musical influences now? Like,
Well,
has that changed through your injury?
so I oh so my through music, I always been in love with hip hop. You know, I always felt like hip hop was it spoke to me like it speaks to a lot of young kids. I would say at first it was like Nas and Wu Tang. I grew up like listening to Nas, Wu Tang, Cool G Rap, Biggie, you know, Tupac, Jay Z, and it goes on. I even like the rappers that's out today, like the Lil Babies and Drake, all of them, Kanye. A lot of rappers that's out now still get inspired by that. So just growing up, and then I had a group I was with called the Elite Cartel, and we were like the Bronx version of the Wu Tang Clan, and we had a smaller group in there, Nova. So music to me, my mom, she listened to Elton John, Sting, Patti LaBelle. I played the guitar when I was in junior high school, and I played the bass. I was in the band. So music always been a part of my life. I've always been like in the space of music, and and so creatively, I've always had an open mind to music because, like I said, my mother listened to different music. I played an instrument, and my favorite rappers, they always spoke about something. They always had a message or a story. They always trying to, or they even had a message, a story. They had an ill metaphor that was like so crazy. Either the song was a metaphor or some of the bars was metaphor. So I always took to that, and that's how I kind of infused it into like the disability topics and stuff. I was like, if I can, I never heard nobody do that in music, so I wanted to like be the version of that, and so I started to create different stories of things I was going through. Stevie Wonder, after my injury too, was a big influence because I kind of at first I didn't think that I was gonna be able to keep rapping. I know I could rap, but I didn't think that there was a space because I never seen nobody in a wheelchair, and Stevie Wonder was always somebody who made me feel like um, people do have a acceptance. Like people will accept somebody that has a disability if the music is good. So I was like that. I took that as a challenge to be like, okay, so my challenge is not to feel sorry for myself, but to try to make good music that when people hear it, they're gonna be like, oh, that's good music, and then they'll music is like a common bond, it's a common denominator, and it brings people together. So I was like, music can be like my superpower in terms of just like if I can do it a little bit like Stevie Wonder did, and so hard on my disability doing music. So, and that's where like all that came into play. And with 4WheelCity too, I started to do stuff like that, and we've been able to. What's a beautiful thing is like sometimes people come and even ask us to do songs about particular things because they can hear like things that people never rapped about before, and then it's been opening ideas to other people. Like Mount Sinai Hospital here in New York City came to us and asked us to create a song about pressure sores to educate people about doing pressure release when you're in a wheelchair. So I told my story on that, and it was cool because it was like it was an opportunity to help people, but it was like we was able to kind of show hip hop in a different way because a lot of this too is like in the disability world they don't really embrace hip hop either in terms of the power of it or like how it can promote different disability issues. So we've been like at the forefront of that for a few years. So that's what's going back to how I started doing music, like what influenced me. It actually that whole concept been having an impact directly on what we've been doing with our advocacy, because without those ideas and those inspirations to like think outside the box and make music about things, then people would not have an idea to even ask us to do that. And that's what's been like doing a lot for us. Yeah.
And I love that answer. And I was having this discussion a little bit earlier today when we were talking about kind of access within the music industry, because now everyone with a
Mm-hmm.
home studio, with the rise of auto-tune, you can have kind of your home studio, you can build a song, you can build a beat, everything on your computer. And not
Mm-hmm.
only that, is you've seen music having such transcendent impact. It's amazing. And again, anyone can do it. And it just
Mm-hmm.
requires really people listening to your mission. And
Yeah.
what I wanted to understand is, what does it look like in achieving your mission? Because you're doing the advocacy work, you're recording music, you're um, partnering up with other agencies in the movement. What
Mm-hmm.
does your week look like? What does your day look like? What are some of the upcoming things that you have going on as 4WheelCity?
Okay. Yeah. Like I was gonna even mention this in the last answer, but going back to like how music has transpired for us, like another song that we was asked to create is a big project we're working on now as far as the music industry is concerned, and accessibility and things like that. It's called Mainstream. And like in a mainstream thing, that's a song that we actually performed at the United Nations. We spoke about in the White House, and the idea was originally came to us from an organization called the National Disability Institute. After they seen us perform in Texas, it's crazy because the concept of the song is like, it goes, I can work, I can dream, I can be so mainstream, but it's like telling the public that, and the people in power, like the politicians, the bankers, the job people, the job people who own businesses, the business owners, that don't marginalize someone in a disability just because they have a disability. And and we've been able to like actually be, like I said, we like the products of all these things. We're not just like talking about it. We're the actual ones that actually been getting a lot of light, getting a lot of shine for like the music that we're doing and the barriers that we break in. So for us to say it, it gives it a lot of reverence, because somebody will automatically be like, oh, what do you mean you can do that? But then I give you opportunity, but it might not even work out. But we're already doing it. So it's like we're showing you that we can do it before we even telling you, proving it. So it's like showing proof. We've been doing stuff. We did a Grammy panel recently with some other great artists with disabilities. The Grammys are trying to break down or like one of the first I would say like music industry um heavyweights that really I feel like are going into that space, and I think that's a good thing, because we're trying to get more eyes on people with disabilities that's making music, because you don't see it a lot. Um, and on top of that, even the topics. So having the Grammys like involved with that is pretty cool, because they the ones who the record companies and all these and other people and artists like subscribe to and are part of, to be able to be like, they want an award from them. So I feel like the Grammys can make some incentive and give people reasons to want to give someone with a disability a record deal or promote their music, because they know there's a chance that the Grammys is going to give that person an award or some kind of benefit comes from it. So that's something that we're doing. We just did something with Hot 97 and Fox NY News, and the headline of that was Lisa Evers Street Soldiers, and the headline of that is it goes, disabilities taking a spotlight in hip hop. So it's like, oh wow. So, and they only could put it that way is because we, like I said before, we actually doing the work, so we're actually doing the work. So even though it hasn't been highlighted in that light the whole time, it's like now when we had these conversations, it comes with a lot of credibility. So, and that's what's important, I think, to really break down the barriers, because people are going to look down on, I feel like they're going to look down on people with disabilities, and not believe that we could do some of these things. But once you're already doing it, it's hard for them to deny you the opportunity. So we hoping like to set an example. And that was great because 97 is like one of the biggest radio stations, and so for us to bring that conversation there was a really big moment because we like I me as a person with a disability, I've never heard anything like that. Those conversations come on the mainstream platforms like that. So the whole like concept of it alone in itself is like a big accomplishment because it's something that we always wanted to see or have, but like we the ones that got the opportunity to do it. So I feel like we can be like really trailblazers, but at the same time, it's like the same person advocating for it is doing it. It's like how can you deny other people the opportunity too? Because we're proving it, and I feel like before this happened, that didn't exist. It was always like look, it was almost like we asking for a handout, and that's not the case. Like on a mainstream song, at the end we say not a handout, just a hand up. So that we at that point now where we're just trying to get a hand up and like give the opportunities that we deserve. And I feel like that's what's been missing for a long time in the music industry, as far as when it comes to people with disabilities, and a lot of different businesses and stuff like that. Is sometimes I think they're doing a favor, but I feel like it's more about giving people what they deserve, and I feel like we deserve that. And that's the whole concept of mainstream. We're doing the video, and we're happy to have y'all be a part of it. And it's going to be and it's Disability Employment Month, so I just feel like timing is everything. But this is just part of the whole storyline of like accessibility. Accessibility is a big word because it can be like just getting into a door, but it's also just having opportunity, like access to opportunity too. So we're hoping that what we're doing is like creating more opportunities for people. And I've been seeing like a lot of commercials now and things like that. I see they try to throw someone in there in a wheelchair now, a disability. I just watched the Paralympics that was a few months ago, and that was pretty great to watch. We performed there back in London. That was the 2012, I think, Paralympics. That was in London.
I think I was there.
Oh, you was there? Oh,
yeah, London's my hometown.
Oh, okay. So yeah, we was there for a few days and performed there. It was like on the Olympic Park. I'm trying to remember the Olympic Park.
And it was Victory Park or something.
Yeah, Victory Park, and the stage was like a dome thing, and it was pretty great. And it was my first time even really hearing about the Paralympics. And when I knew it was something great about it is that Jay-Z and Coldplay performed at the closing games for the Paralympics, not the regular Olympics. They performed at the Paralympics. And I was like, this is pretty dope because like now in history, I performed at the same Paralympics with Jay-Z and Kobe. It wasn't right next to them, but it was like the same platform. And I'm like, I felt like that was just part of the story too, because Jay-Z is one of my favorite artists. You know, I met him before, and Coldplay got one of my favorite songs ever. You know,
which song?
The La Vida. I think it's La Vida. You know,
Viva La Vida. Yeah.
Viva La Vida. That's one of my favorite songs. Yeah. So, and, you know, I was in London watching them perform, and I was like, this is incredible. Like, you know, and I just felt like that just was a testimony to everything that we're trying to do, but it was like confirmation that we were on the right stage because and we don't have to come second.
Exactly.
We don't have to come second.
And one of the things that kind of you just said now was you're providing people access by saying, hey, I've done this, people with disabilities can do this, people with disabilities should do this. And within that, you even said you defined accessibility in a few different ways. So it's whether sharing the stage and having the same stage, or whether it's encouraging somebody to take the same steps you have. So what does accessibility mean to you, be it on a micro level or a macro level even?
I think it's everything. That accessibility is everything. Like stream song, like you want wheelchair accessibility and financial accessibility, because the goal is like, because when you have a disability, a lot of times they marginalize you. They make like you only can make a certain amount of money, before they start taxing your benefits or taking things away from you that you really need. So sometimes it forces people with a disability to remain in poverty just because they don't want to lose their benefits or things like that happen. And accessibility is give me an opportunity and don't put things in my way to make me not be able to do what I'm trying to do. And that could be from stairs. That could be to somebody doubting my ability. That's like an impediment to me. If I'm trying to do something I know I can do, I want to try to do, and I went to school for it. I put in all these hours of training, and then I go for the opportunity, and the person sitting in front of me who's supposed to give me a fair chance is not even seeing my ability. They're just seeing my disability. That's like me can't get in the store because they got a ramp, got stairs and don't have a ramp. So it's a universal concept, and we try to do a lot of that with our music and our concepts. So it just don't hit one point on like disability, because a lot of these concepts are universal. So even the concept of disability, like when we use the word disability, it comes across as like something you see visually, like a person in a wheelchair has a disability. But at the same time, there's a lot of people I know for a fact who are not smarter than me in terms of just, I know I'm capable of what I've learned, what I experienced. And in any given moment, in any given thing we're doing, whether maybe it's music, they might can't do music as good as me. So they're more disabled than me in that moment and what we're doing. So disability is a concept that happens in the moment. And it's only a thing of like, how much can you do in that moment or not do in that moment? And whatever, somebody with a disability could do more than somebody who appears to have an ability, because we're just looking at it from one way, just that physical thing, but we're not really looking at the ability to do whatever it is that needs to be done in that moment. And a lot of times, everybody has a disability in a sense. Because if it's something I could do better than somebody or something they can't do at all, then they're disabled. They can't do it. And so it's like, in a sense, we all have a disability. It's just that some people's disability is part of their lifestyle every day. And then it gets placed on us. But everybody has a disability at some point or another every day. It's something somebody can't do.
And people also tend to forget really how prominent disability and how common disability is. You could become disabled at any moment. 20 to 25% of the population are people with disabilities. So the fact that it isn't more in the mainstream or more in popular culture is doing a disservice to really the fact that it's 20 to 25% of the population.
Yeah.
And Namel, really what I wanted to end on is we've had a really far-ranging conversation. You've mentioned your work and advocacy working at the UN or going to the White House or inspiring the youth and kind of or even working with the Grammys. What is your most proud achievement? Is it a person you met, a person you influenced, a personal story, your relationship with Rick? What is your most proud achievement?
I think all of that goes into it. I would say at this point is one thread. It's one thread of things that go into something like that. And it's just the fact that, okay, so musically, I think, because I grew up in a community, shout out to my Bronx peoples from the 9169 Washington 3rd, where so many people I know did music. And sometimes I look back and I'm like, so much of the things that Rick and I have done and have got opportunities to do and got light on is really crazy to me. It blows my mind sometimes. And it's like referencing Stevie Wonder earlier, like two things. I think that I was featured in an Apple TV show called Dare, and I was like person who was able to share my story with Stevie Wonder. The show is about people being able to tell people they look up to or inspired them, write a letter to them, and Dare, whoever so they had episodes with Oprah, Lin-Manuel, Big Bird, a few other people, and Stevie Wonder, and I was one of the people who wrote to Stevie Wonder, and just telling him how he inspired me, like I was saying earlier, During what made it so special to me is the fact that he was a big idol of mine, and it was the way they told it was like so just being part of that was crazy to me. But the fact that they were showing like my story and like stuff like the how far we have come and like the way the music like they talked about the movement and I just seen a lot of our work come to a moment of like truth in that piece, and I just was like sitting back like, wow, this is like Stevie Wonder, and this is it's not just like some kid who like trying to do it. Like it was actually like showing like what we have done and just the essence of it of 4WheelCity. And I just was sitting, I was just looking like I was proud, and I don't really do that too much, but I just was like I was just kind of happy that we did a lot of things that we have done up to that point to show on that kind of platform, but to be attached to Stevie Wonder, who also have made music for apartheid in Africa and so many different songs Stevie Wonder have made. And I was the only person who was a musician too. And I had a disability. So I just felt like I was me. There was somebody else on there who, what's his name? Brian Stevenson was another person who wrote a letter to him who was on the same episode with me, who had the Mercy. They did the Mercy movie about with Jamie Foxx, and he was the lawyer who got the guy off. I forgot the guy's name. Who got the guy off? Who was serving a life sentence for a wrong conviction, and so he was on there, and it came out last year, 2020, during like when the height of the Black Lives Matter protest was hitting with George Floyd, June 5th. So it was like a very nostalgic time to watch it too, because I just felt like they were showing the stuff they were showing in the episode looked like what was happening outside my window. They was talking about this was like they was putting people on curfew, people was running, and they was showing how that was happening in the 60s and the 70s, and Stevie Wonder's story, how he had to deal with racism and showing the Ku Klux Klan. And my story was like all infused in that. And I'm like, wow, this is bigger than just Stevie Wonder and me. And this is like Black history. It was a lot that went into it to see it at that time. And I just was like, this is something I'm gonna never forget, because I feel like it was the universe like putting things in alignment to let me know that what we're doing is very connected to the struggle of people, and like we're really making a change. So I think that's probably like the biggest, not the project is, but everything that went into it. To see our story play out in that moment was crazy to me.
Wow, that's an amazingly powerful story, and I think it also dovetails to the next project, which is going to be your mainstream song. So when is mainstream coming out? How can people find it? Where can people explore more about your story or about the mainstream song? And even also the Stevie Wonder documentary.
Yes, the Stevie Wonder documentary is on Apple TV Plus platform. You can find it on there. The show's called Dare, Dear. So Spike Lee, they got an episode with Spike Lee, Oprah, Lin-Manuel, Gloria, somebody I forgot her name. She's like a dancer, but it's a pretty cool show. It's a good heartfelt show. And so mainstream is actually mainstream is a big idea. It's a big project, and it's happening as we speak, and it's happening before we met. It's been happening, and it's going on. The goal behind mainstream is to disable the poverty rate by 2025 by at least 25% if we can, or even more. And the idea is disable the poverty rate by people getting more access to jobs and their dreams, and hopefully taking it to like legislation and getting people more ways to keep their benefits and not losing their benefits just because they trying to get out and make more money. So people with disabilities know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about this. And the song is actually on iTunes and everything right now. You can go check it out. It's on. We have a single out on it, and then we have it on our God Bless America mixtape. And what we're doing now for Disability Awareness Employment Month is that we're making a visual for it. And the visual is something like we did with the movement, which with the movement song is talking about more accessibility, like stores and facilities we need access, like accessible bathrooms, ramps. That song is about that. The same sense when we did with Welcome to Reality, which speaks about gun violence and kids staying in school. And we showcase that video when we do our performances at schools and stuff like that with the youth, average youth. And now mainstream is in that family of PSA music videos where it's going to be something that we can use for years and generations to come to keep putting out this message to people and show them like the capabilities and abilities of people with disabilities, quote unquote, just to remind people that, because it's crazy, because a lot of people, like I said before I got injured, I never knew a lot about this stuff. And there's a lot of people out there still who don't know none about this stuff, who think people who are in wheelchairs or different type of abilities can't do anything, can't go outside, can't drive, can't talk, can't walk, can't think. They think so many things. It's like, and I'm still meeting people every day that just have the weirdest questions to me. I don't get mad. I take my time and try to answer people's questions because I know people don't know. But sometimes I'll be like, wow, you really think this way? So you really think that the people... But I get it because people don't understand. So mainstream is just one of those songs that fits in our family of like motivational, inspirational things that bring awareness that we hope just stand the test of time. Because we're doing like timeless stuff. Like we're not in a rush, but the timing is everything.
Thank you, Namel, and I'm personally really excited to see the visuals for it. I'm already played it for everyone in my office and shared your story widely, and hopefully with this conversation, more people will undergo the same journey that I went when I first met you, and learning about the movement, learning about your music, and learning about what changes you're looking to make. So, Namel, thank you for being on the show, and I'm excited for our next conversations and collaborations. As you said, there's no rush. We're going to be doing this for a long time, and long may it continue.
Trying to be timeless. That's what it's all about.
Awesome.